Hi, and thank you for visiting my channel. For more information, kindly subscribe and follow. Now let's get started.
Nick Aldis serves as the general manager of SmackDown and is responsible for making matches and keeping things balanced on the show. As GM, he holds the authority to take strict actions against rule breakers. He might use his position to punish a major Bloodline star for his actions. Paul Heyman opened tonight's SmackDown with his promo, where he declared that after Raw's debut on Netflix, only one tribal chief left in WWE, whose name is Roman Reigns. Heyman then announced that Reigns would be officially entering the Men's Royal Rumble to recapture the gold he lost the previous year. The Wiseman even called Rhodes out. However, before the American Nightmare could say more, Kevin Owens interrupted and started bashing him for being good to The Rock. The champion rushed out to chase Owens, and both stars engaged in a brawl. Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga entered the ring to attack Heyman during the chaos. Jimmy Uso made the save, but Tonga and Fatu outnumbered him. The referees intervened to stop the Bloodline from causing some severe damage to Jimmy. The Samoan werewolf crossed the line by superkicking the officials. Nick Aldis came out and had an intense face-off with Jacob before Rhodes re-entered the ring and threw heel stars out of the squared circle. Following Fatu's action, Nick Aldis could impose a big fine on the Samoan werewolf as a punishment for putting his hands on company officials. That said, the suggested angle is hypothetical for now, and fans must stay tuned to SmackDown to learn more. Nick Aldis booked a blockbuster title match ahead of Royal Rumble 2025. On the latest episode of SmackDown, Tiffany Stratton revealed that Nia Jax never mistreated her. Instead, she outsmarted her by acting dumb to capitalize on the best moment and eventually capture the gold. Nia Jax interrupted Tiffy's promo and warned her to return the WWE Women's Championship or face her wrath. Before things could escalate, Bayley, Naomi, and Bianca Belair confronted them, and the women got into a brawl. Soon after, all four women, Bayley, Bianca, Naomi, and Nia Jax, were booked in a #1 contenders bout for the WWE Women's Championship. All competitors went the distance to clinch their shot at the title. Bayley came on top with a monumental win over 3 of the best women in the company and became the first challenger for Tiffy's title. Nick Aldis has officially booked the title match between Stratton and the role model on the Blue brand next week. It will be interesting to see what plans the Triple H-led creative has in store for Tiffy's title reign in the coming weeks. The atmosphere was electric as the opening of WWE SmackDown unfolded, and fans in the arena knew something huge was about to happen. With rumors swirling about a power shift in the company, Nick Aldis stood at the top of the ramp, microphone in hand, ready to make an announcement that would change the course of the Bloodline's legacy forever. Nick Aldis had always prided himself on being fair and just in his leadership. As the WWE SmackDown general manager, he had taken an unprecedented stand against the unchecked power of certain factions. But there was one group that had continued to run roughshod over the roster, the Bloodline. Led by Roman Reigns, they had controlled WWE with an iron fist. However, recently, their grip on SmackDown had faltered, with cracks beginning to appear within their unity. A recent incident on SmackDown had pushed Aldis to his breaking point. During a chaotic match between Solo Sikoa and an up-and-coming star, Solo had crossed a line. While his victory was certain, his actions afterward were far from sportsmanlike. In a brutal attack on his opponent, Solo Sikoa continued to deliver unnecessary punishment even after the referee had called for the bell. The crowd roared in shock, not only at the excessive violence, but also at the arrogance and disrespect Solo showed towards the entire SmackDown roster. This wasn't just a beating, it was an attack on the very principles that Nick Aldis stood for. Aldis had seen enough. He could no longer let the Bloodline's behavior go unchecked, especially when it was coming from one of its most powerful members. As the camera cut to Aldis, standing tall on the stage, the crowd fell silent in anticipation. His voice, calm but authoritative, echoed through the arena. Solo Sikoa, Aldis began, your actions last week on SmackDown were reprehensible. I understand the pressure that comes with being a part of the Bloodline, but that does not give you the right to abuse your power, nor does it give you the right to make a mockery of our sport. The fans erupted in cheers, supporting Aldis in this bold stand. They had grown tired of the Bloodline's dominance and wanted change. You think you're untouchable, don't you? You and your family think you can do whatever you want without consequence. Aldis continued, his voice growing more intense. Well, I'm here to tell you that no one is above the rules. Not Roman Reigns, not Jimmy Uso, and certainly not you, Solo Sikoa. There was a palpable tension in the air as the crowd eagerly awaited what Aldis would do next. Solo Sikoa had been a force to be reckoned with, and his dominance in the ring had made him a feared competitor. However, his recent actions had crossed a line that even a force like him couldn't escape. You've disrespected this company, the fans, and your opponent. And for that, Solo, I'm going to make an example of you. Solo's expression soured as he glared at the stage. He had never been called out like this, especially by someone like Nick Aldis. He was part of the Bloodline, after all. Who had the guts to confront him? Aldis held up a hand, signaling the security team to step forward. The crowd began to murmur, sensing something big was about to unfold. They knew that Aldis wasn't one to make empty threats. Effective immediately, Aldis declared, Solo Sikoa is hereby suspended from all WWE events for the next 30 days. That's right. No more title defenses, no more tag matches, no more appearances on SmackDown until you learn what it means to respect the rules and your fellow competitors. You'll sit on the sidelines and reflect on the damage you've caused. The reaction from the crowd was one of utter disbelief. This wasn't just a fine or a reprimand. Aldis had taken the bold step of suspending one of the most dominant members of the Bloodline, and this decision was a clear message that no one, not even the Bloodline, was above accountability. Solo stood motionless, his fists clenching as anger boiled in his eyes. He wasn't used to being told what to do, especially by someone who hadn't been a part of the family. But in that moment, it became clear that Aldis was not afraid of the Bloodline, and he had the authority to back it up. If Roman Reigns or any member of your family have a problem with this decision, Aldis continued, they can come find me. But I don't think they'll be too happy with the consequences either. The tension in the arena reached a fever pitch. Fans were eagerly watching to see how the situation would unfold. Would the Bloodline retaliate? Would they show up to confront Aldis face to face? The uncertainty left the audience on the edge of their seats, but Aldis was resolute. A moment later, the unmistakable music of the Bloodline began to play, signaling that Roman Reigns and his cousins were about to make their presence known. The crowd erupted, knowing that this was about to become personal. Roman Reigns, flanked by his cousins Jimmy and Jey Uso, stepped onto the stage. His demeanor was calm but dangerous. The Universal Champion locked eyes with Aldis, and for a brief moment, the arena felt like it was holding its breath. Nick, Roman said in his usual imposing tone, I heard you wanted to make an example of my cousin Solo. But let me remind you of something. This is the Bloodline. We don't bow to anyone. Not even you. Aldis didn't flinch. I'm not here to bow, Roman. I'm here to enforce the law and maintain some sense of order in this company. Solo stepped over the line, and now he will face the consequences. You may not like it, but that's the way it works in my SmackDown. Roman's eyes narrowed. You want to play by the rules, huh? Fine. But remember, Nick, the Bloodline has always been about family. If you think you can break us, you've got another thing coming. The tension was thick, but Aldis stood his ground. The Bloodline is a powerful force, Roman, but no one is above the law. I suggest you remember that. With that, Roman Reigns glared at Aldis one final time before turning to leave, his family following behind him. But the impact of Nick Aldis's decision was undeniable. He had taken a stand, and for the first time, the Bloodline's dominance on SmackDown was being questioned. As the show continued, fans could feel the ripple effect of Aldis's punishment. Solo Sikoa's suspension was a bold move that would send shockwaves through the WWE locker room. And with Roman Reigns and the Bloodline lurking in the background, it was clear that the battle between Aldis and the most powerful family in WWE had just begun. For now, though, Nick Aldis had shown the world that he wasn't afraid to take on even the biggest stars in WWE if it meant maintaining integrity and respect in the ring. The fans, now more than ever, were fully behind him. The real question was, What would the Bloodline do next? And who would stand with Aldis as he faced the wrath of the most dominant faction in professional wrestling?